Hello, I'm Bobby. I'm going to demonstrate Kitchener and tubular bind off today. They're related to one another. And I'll show you how and why it's done and some tools that you can use to remember how to do this. Can you switch over? So one thing we have in the shop is called this sock doctor. And it looks nice on the front. It tells you the parts and pieces of your sock, but more importantly on the back, it does tell you your cheat, how to remember how to do a Kitchener stitch. This is still seems pretty complicated, and I will show you a different way to remember it that's a lot easier, and you don't have to keep looking it up online to figure it out each time. So the tools I'll be using for this today are all from my knit kit. I have a very old knit kit, and it has the needle and my scissors inside of it. We do have these at the shop as well. Some nice, pretty new ones. If you want to have your parts and pieces, what I'm going to be using is a darning needle like that and my snippet scissors. So I have those that I'll use to cut my ends. So Kitchener stitch is used to make a smooth seam or to join two pieces, usually of stockinette. And this is two yellow pieces of stockinette that I joined with a Kitchener with a gray yarn. What I'm going to show you is a mnemonic called in, out, off, and it actually traces the pathway of the yarn here. So what you can see is that the gray yarn goes into the stitch, that stitch comes off, and then it comes out the next stitch. Goes to the other side, it goes into this stitch, that stitch comes off, and then it goes out the next stitch. So I'll show you how this works when we say in, out, off. When we set up the Kitchener, all you have to remember, instead of purl in the first, here, instead of front two stitches, front purl, keep on, back knit, keep on, front knit, slip off, front purl, keep on. It's really hard for me to remember. So in, out, off is all you have to remember for this. So here's your two needles when we set them up. Remember the inside is to the inside of your stockinette, two pieces, outside of your back needle and outside of your front needle. So in, out, off is all we have to remember. So here is two pieces of stockinette like it was on a sock. I have my two needles. I have my tail yarn because I left my tail too short, and for demonstration purposes, I'm using a gray. But usually you would use the tail that you had connected.
Okay.
So you do want your tail to be approximately 3 to 4 times the width of your project. This one's just right at 3, and it might not be enough anyways. So I'm going to tuck that in. I'm going to use my needle. Remember, this is inside, this is outside, this is outside. So for the setup, when we do this, in and off is taking the stitch off, out sets up the next stitch. So the setup, we're going to start with an out. So we're going to go from the inside to the outside of the front stitch that actually is stitching as if to purl, and leave it on because it's a setup stitch. And then we're going to go inside to outside of the back needle, and that looks like a knit. So knit on the back, that's the setup, so we're leaving it on. All right, so we've done the setup. In, off, out is all we have to remember now. So back to the first needle. We're going to go in from out to in on the first needle, off, and then take it out from inside to outside on the second needle and leave that one on. And we'll go to the back stitch. We'll go in, so outside to inside on the back stitch, take it off, and then go out, inside to outside on the back stitch. And snug those up. So in the front, again, in, off, out, and pull that snug. And on the back, we're going to go in, off, out, and pull that snug. So on the front again, in, off, out. And on the back, in, off, and out. You can see this starting to zigzag back and forth. You can kind of snug it up as you go to make it a nicer, neater looking stitch. Back to the front, and off, out. And then in, off, out.
And I just wanted to get you to write down your name and email.
A couple more and we'll get a nice edge for you to look at here. In, off, out. And then in, off, out. So I find that mnemonic much easier than trying to remember front knit, slip off, front purl, keep on, back purl, slip off, back knit, keep on. We're doing the same thing, it's just using a different mnemonic to remember. And you end up getting this nice joining stockinette stitch in between your two pieces. So that's the Kitchener bind off for two pieces of stockinette. It is actually related to the tubular bind off. So here's a piece of 1x1 rib. And you can see that the stockinette pattern extends kind of over the top of the ribbing, and it makes a stretchy bind off that is kind of nice and neat and matches your 1x1 rib. So without a traditional bind off, leaves kind of an edge to it. So I'm going to show you how that is set up. I'm going to use double pointed needles for this. Most of my knitting in the round is done on 2 circulars. This demonstration piece, I'm going to show you how to get it set up for a tubular bind off. So you're going to take and create what we had for the stockinette up here, and take your 2 double pointed needles and slip the knits onto the front needle and slip the purls onto the back needle. So that's a knit, that's a purl, that's a knit, it's a purl. We're just going to slip every stitch off. So knits are in the front, purls are in the back. And then what we've done is we've set it up just like your Kitchener was for your 2 pieces of stockinette.
If for some reason we don't get, okay, usually she responds right away. Okay. By Monday, just call us and let us know. Okay. Our information's here. So. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Let me switch my needle to another piece of yarn here. So this should be looking familiar to you. It's going to be 2 rows of stitches on the needles, and we're going to do the same thing, in, out, and off with these 2 rows of stitches on 2 needles. Again, I'm going to use a different piece of yarn for demonstration because my tail's a little bit too short. So I should cut my tail long enough to be 3 to 4 times the width of my project. This is only twice, so let me use a different one to show y'all. So again, in, off, out. The out is the setup stitch. So first I'm going to go out on the front needle. Let's try this again. Go out on the first stitch, and then go out on the first stitch of the back needle. That's my setup. If you're using the tail from your yarn, that'll be secure for you there. And then I'm ready to do in, off, and out. So in, off, out. And then on the back needle, in, off, out. I'm going to snug it up there. And then go back to the front needle. In, off, out. Snug it up. and in, off, out on the back again. We're going to keep this up, in, off, out on the front. In, off, out on the back. And sometimes you need to adjust the tension on your stitches that you're binding off. So in, out, off. Pull that a little snug. In, off, out. And back. In, off, out in the front. One more, and then we'll look at it, in, off, out in the back here. So this is creating that nice back and forth extension of the stockinette. So you can see how these stockinette columns just extend and go up and over the top. So that's how Kitchener bind off can be used as a tubular bind off if you're just doing a ribbed section to get a nice loose ribbed bind off that matches your front and your back both. So any questions?
Kay said she likes your method. It seems a lot easier, she said. So that was nice. It was very helpful. But if you can tell them if they have questions, they can unmute and ask.
Feel free to unmute and ask if you have any questions. If you want to do this on a 2x2 ribbing, I'll show you that setup. So here's a 2x2 ribbing. Again, you're going to put knits on the front needle. And purls on your back needle. So the 2 purls go on the back, the 2 knits go on the front, 2 purls on the back, 2 knits on the front, 2 purls on the back, 2 knits on the front, 2 purls on the back. So this is in the round, a 2x2 ribbing. And I'm just going to let the back part of that in the round sit on its circular needle out of the way. And I'll show you this one more time on the 2x2 ribbing up here. So on these 2 double pointed needles, the out. So I'm going to do an out setup first, and an out setup first on the top one. And then it's in, off, out, the same, just in the same order. So in, off, out. And you're going to go to the back needle for the next one. In, off, out.
Have you shopped with those before? No. Are you?
Back to the front needle. In, off, out. Back to the back needle. In, off, out. Back to the front. So this will work also on your 2x2 ribbing. It's a little bit It looks a little awkward with the gray in there. It does make a nice edge that is a little bit stretchier than a typical bind off. So I think it works best with the 1x1 ribbing that we saw earlier. You can see the extension of the stockinette knits over the top. You can do it with your 2x2 ribbing for a stretchier bind off. So I hope this helped everyone kind of sort out the Kitchener stitch. Why it seems complicated because you're doing both knits and purls, but really what you're doing is weaving your yarn in and out of each stitch sequentially. So I think it helps to be able to see that you're going in one, taking it off, going out the next, and then in the one after that. So hope this helped clarify for you. And if you ever need to look it up, you can get a tool that you have with your knitting tools to keep track of it. You can look it up on the internet, or you can just play this video again and remember your in, off, out. Thank you.